Now that we have seen how to create regular grids and how to flag those regular grids with wireframes, let's take a look at how to generate subgrids using the solids. So within RMSP, we have the RMSP.subGrid data, which is the class for subgrids, just like we have grid data for regular grids. And the method that we're going to use today, it's called fromSolid. So this method is used to create subgrids with provided solids, and the boundaries of the subblocks are defined by the solids. This function is very flexible. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can use multiple solids for multiple domains at the same time. So I would recommend you to take a look at the documentation. For now, we are just gonna use a very basic application of this function to try to build a sub block with the solids that we have. So the first argument of this method is the solids argument. So the way you can define the solids is using a dictionary where the codes are, the keys are the codes of the domains, and the values are the solids that are going to be used to flag that code. And also another thing to keep in mind is that the ordering of this dictionary is important. So the first item here is going to be flagged first, and the second item is going to be flagged second. So if there is overlap between the different solids or meshes that you're using, it's very important to get the ordering right so that you end up with the correct flagging. So in our case, I want to start with everything that's below the topography, and that's going to be our background. So let's start with the background code, and let's assign that to the topography mesh. So the topography mesh is going to define what is the background. And then the next one is going to be our low grade and the high grade. So let's do that. Low grade, and this is going to be the low shell. This is going to be the high grade, and this is going to be the high shell. So we have defined all the solids for each one of the codes that we want to flag. So the next argument of this function is the variable. So this is just a domain column name that we want to flag into the grid. So that's going to be domain column. And the next argument here is flags. So flags indicates how we want to flag each one of these domains. So for instance, topo is a mesh. So a mesh has above or below. In this case, we want to flag everything below. So I'm going to go ahead and say below. And the ordering of these flags is the same ordering of the solids. So the second one is the low shell. So the low shell is a solid, is a closed solid. And the two ways I can use it is with the inside and with the outside flagging. In this case, the low shell is flagging using the inside. And the high grade shell is the same thing. We want to flag inside. So let's keep it this way for now. Let's take a look at the next argument. So the next argument is the min block sizes. So this defines the smallest subblock that you can have. So in this case, it's going to be 5 by 5 by 5. That's the smallest subblock size that I want. And if I look at the next arguments, they are the parent size, parent block size. So this is the largest block size that you have. In our case, we're going to use 15 by 15 by 15. And if you see here, we can also provide other things like the rotation, but there will be no rotation for our grid. So this is sufficient for now. So let's call it SubGrid and run it. So as I run this function, it will generate the subblock model. So let's copy some code to reutilize here. In this case, we are going to be plotting the subgrid. And yeah, let's just see how it looks like right now. So this is our subgrid. It does look just like the regular grid because I cannot see the grid boundaries. So in order to add the grid boundaries, what we can do is to copy this over here and make this a draw method. And for the first one, which is the section plot, actually we can keep that the same. Let's change the second one. So for this one, I want to plot with the black color, but what I want to plot is the block outline. And this is just gonna plot the outline of the block instead of filling the block with some color. And then I want the block shrink to be set to 1, which means no shrink. So we're gonna see the full size of the block on the outline lines. So if I run this, I get an error. What is the error? I have a typo. I'm missing the R. So yeah, this is my block model right now. As you can see, we have the subblocks split at the solids boundaries. But one thing that you may have noticed here is that because we have this low grade that goes above the topography, it actually initializes blocks above the topography. In order to avoid that, we can go back to our function and specify which objects are actually boundaries of the model. In our case, the topography defines a boundary of the model, so I don't want anything to be initialized if it's not flagged by the topography. So in order to do that, we just have to add the underscore B for boundary, and that will make sure that everything that's not below the topography doesn't get into our final model. So if I check now my cross section, this is the expected result where I do not initialize any block above the topography.